Hey everybody, welcome back once again to Cheap Comic Collector. So glad you're here. Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff if you like what you see. Um, as you can see, I shaved my head recently. It's still hot here in Florida. And of course I do. It's the middle of September right now as I record this. But this is episode number 493, and it should air October 20th. So hopefully it'll be a little cooler by then. But yeah, it's Sunday, so we're going to do a few more fun things besides just going through comics. So to start off, I thought I'd show a little bit of Disneyana stuff. I showed these recently on, well, as you watch this, it'll be about a month ago, on Comic Book Memories. I guested with Dr. Silver H on Comic Book Memories because Shannon was off for the day, and it was the day where I couldn't do the claim sale because I had something to do that afternoon. So anyway, I was lucky enough, he was kind enough to have me on, and so I shared these then, but I wanted to show them on my channel too. Because I know we don't always have the same viewership, and yeah, pretty much, yeah, anything I show, I want to have a record of it on my channel. So it's just the way it goes. Anyway, so we got these guys. You know what? Let me put you up top. That'll probably be easier. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, so these are sold at the Disney parks, and there are basically Star Wars action figures, but they're Disney characters, you know, playing at being Star Wars characters. So, this was Chip and Dale as Ewoks, which is pretty cool. And this is actually from Series 3. So there was a series of 4 or 5 figures that they did, and they went up. I don't know how many series they had. I don't know what all the figures are. They show some of them. I guess they show Series 3 on the back. You got Goofy as Chewbacca and Minnie in the slave outfit as Leia. So I mean, I got the ones I liked. They're all the ones I got were Donald Duck themed, basically. But so there's the Donald Duck as a stormtrooper. It looks like over time his helmet has yellowed for some reason. I had them hanging on the wall, and it looks like this side hasn't yellowed, but this side has. So I guess the light from the room has just yellowed that, but it hasn't yellowed the figure, which is weird. But maybe the helmet's made out of a different material. But anyway, still fun stuff. And then this is Series 4. We got Donald Duck as Han Solo frozen in carbonite. And for that series, they had a few different ones. They had Black Pete as Boba Fett, which is kind of weird, and Goofy as C-3PO. And not sure what's going on with Mickey and Minnie there. And then this is probably my favorite. It's Huey, Dewey, and Louie as Jawas. So that's funny. I didn't really like any of the other ones in this series, but I'm not a fan of the Star Wars cartoons. I like the live action stuff, but and I think most of these were based on that. I don't even really know for sure who these characters are, so you can hate me for that. But I know who Huey, Dewey, and Louie and Jawas are, and I think those are awesome. So anyway, those were cool. And then I also showed this, which is just an Uncle Scrooge Christmas ornament. Disney has a ridiculously huge series of what they call sketchbook ornaments. And they basically copied the Hallmark ornament series and made it their own, even though they're still Disney Hallmark series. Disney has done their own, and once in a while they come out with one that I think is really cool. This is, of course, Uncle Scrooge sitting on a pile of money. I used to think this was based on the original Uncle Scrooge cartoon about money, but when I was looking it up to confirm that for Dr. Silver Age's show, I realized that he wears a red coat, and this is a blue coat. And so I looked up the ornament, and it turns out this is actually based on DuckTales. So that's still cool. To me, Uncle Scrooge looks a little bit off. That's why I thought he was based on the original Money cartoon. But it's still really cool, and I really like it. And if you look through the magnifying glass there, it actually does enlarge it a little bit, just a tiny bit. Yeah, I really like this one. I thought it's cool. And when I was looking it up, I came across I looked on eBay to find the information out of what it was actually based on. And they had this thing listed for like $160, $130, which is, to me, was just outrageous. But because this just came out a few years ago. This isn't that old, but still, I really enjoy this one. This is cool. And what I like about these sketchbook ornaments too is most of them, they don't have to be Christmas ornaments. You can use them as they usually sit, so you can use them just as a display piece as well. So those are neat. And then lastly, for Disney Anna, we have the Darkwing Duck Snow Globe. This one's got sparkles in it, and the building of St. Canard there lights up, which unfortunately I left the batteries in, and I had to, and they corroded, so I had to clean it up, the contacts up with sandpaper to get it working again. But so collector's tip: don't leave batteries in things; they ruin them eventually. It does play music, but unfortunately it doesn't play the Darkwing Duck theme song. I remember just being disappointed in that when I got it. It plays Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. So, anyway, pretty cool. And this does go for around $300 on eBay, I saw. So that was a surprise. I know some of the snow globes become pretty valuable, and but that's pretty high. So that's cool. So cool stuff. And we'll get into some comics. This box came from Bailey's Comic Corner. 60 comics, $39.53. And came out to 66 cents a comic. So should be something good in here. She included a little Thanos sticker. Probably try some other ones, or this may have dropped out of somebody else's box and landed in this one. The way things go around here, but that's kind of cool. And well, I guess we're doing a Disney theme today. Wasn't. Yeah, this is another entire box of Disney comics. I still have one more of these after this one somewhere. But yeah, it's like we're doing all Disney comics. That's why I paid up for it, because they definitely go higher than the superhero boxes normally. Let me zoom back out a little bit. So these should be mostly the Gladstone runs, I think. So let me pull my list up. I'm pretty sure I have all of these, but there's always that chance that there's something here that I don't have. So hope everybody's having a great day wherever you are. And so this is Walt Disney's Comics and Stories number 517. So pretty early one in the Gladstone run. They started at 511. And since this is supposed to be a longer show, I don't want to go through these too quick. Let me take a look inside. I gotta start a new pile of tape here. This one's in pretty decent shape. And it does not have at least it doesn't start with a Carl Barks story. It has a story from Holland by Ben Verhagen and Fred Milton and Dan Yips did this one. And they were pretty good. They did some of their, they reprinted some of their stories from foreign sources when they were getting started, because they didn't want to go too fast through the Carl Barks stories, and they do actually do a pretty good job. So, and then there's a Brer Rabbit reprint from 4-color number 208. So that's cool. Never appreciated Brer Rabbit as a character when I was growing up, but then once they made Splash Mountain, and I absolutely loved Splash Mountain at the Disney parks, he became a favorite just because of that ride. Got a Gyro Gearloose story. This one that's the Carl Barks in this issue, I guess. And then a Mickey Mouse serial, The Incredible Box Top Plot, from originally in issue 261. And then they actually had a letter column, so that's fun. And because that's probably the first time Disney Comics ever had letter columns. And then they started doing, on the back of all their pages, they started doing like a Donald Duck comic strip instead of just making the ad full page, which I thought was cool. But it's always the same strip on every comic for that month, so still fun stuff, a lot of fun. Here's number 518. That's probably very similar. It is an infinite cover with them reading the comic books. It's got a overturned page, a dog-eared corner up there at the top, unfortunately. And as long as we got it open to fix that, we might as well take a look. Yeah, and it's got another Freddie Milton and Dan Yips story in it. It's basically the same lineup: Brer Rabbit, Gyro by Carl Barks, and Mickey Mouse in the second chapter of that same serial. So they were kind of going, trying their format. They have an Uncle Scrooge one-page gag on the back. And the letter column moved to the front. Cool stuff. And here's Uncle Scrooge, number 240. So I have all the Walt Disney Comics and Stories from the Gladstone run. Let me see how I'm doing on the Uncle Scrooges. Yeah, I have all of those as well. So it's just some of the later square bound ones that I don't have, I think. So let's see what's in this one. I haven't looked at these in so long. Uncle Scrooge. Got a Carl Barks 10-pager to start with, and then A story from Denmark and one from the Netherlands, Oberon Publishing. Looks like Beagle Boys are up to their nefarious tricks once again. And this one from the Netherlands. Unfortunately, they don't have credits on it. It says it's just by Oberon Publishing, so don't know who the artists or original writer are. It does list the translator or the scripter, the American scripter. But the art's a little bit different in this one, so not bad, but different. And then they started a column talking about what's in each issue that they were coming out with that month. Mickey Mouse, Walt Disney Comics and Stories, Uncle Scrooge Adventures, Mickey and Donald, Donald Duck Adventures, Uncle Scrooge. These were, what, 90s? 1989, so yeah. Late 80s, early 90s. And here's another Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, number 519, 520, 521, 522, 523, 524, 525, Mickey on the cover, 526, 527, and here's a Donald Duck 279, and this was a giant size issue, which means it would have been towards the end of their run, because they did that when they knew they were going to lose the license. They started doubling up on the size of some of their books to use the content that they had purchased and get it out there before, Disney just killed the vibe. Donald Duck number 279. Pretty sure I've got this one. This one's in really nice condition too. All of these are in pretty nice condition so far. Donald Duck. Oh, I'm missing a couple issues of this run of Donald Duck, but I do have this one. So, interesting. So this one has got a really old Carl Barks story, Maharaja Donald, from March of Comics number 4, back in 1947. So that's cool. And then they also did and when they knew they were shutting down, they did a few of these little articles where it's like the Gladstone that never was. So these are covers that they commissioned, but they decided not to use them for one reason or another. They were rejected, or for one reason or another, or they just found something they liked better, or whatever. This one was for a book that they were going to do collecting the Donald Duck comic strips, but the project was canceled because there was like 2 weeks worth of strips that Disney wouldn't let them print, so they just didn't do it. And then this story here is an Italian story reprinted from Topolino 135, it says. And this is by Romano Scarpa, who is considered a very a classic creator as well. Like one of considered basically one of the heirs to Karl Barks of doing his carrying on his type of stories. But for me, nobody does better than Karl Barks and Don Rosa. And this is a Don Rosa cover too, by the way. And oh, we have some older Uncle Scrooges. I might need some of these. Let's take a look. Uncle Scrooge. Gotta go back to the other end of the list. The Strange Case of the Watched Duck. Well, I would imagine it's the Beagle Boys watching. Beagle Boys Incorporated. This is issue 168 from 1979. And I don't have this one. Let me see if it's one where I recognize the stories or not. And there's, as expected, there's the Beagle Boys. Looks like mostly Vic Lockman stories in this one, probably. So nothing to get too excited about. But it is one I do not have, so... So I am going to put that one to the side. And here is another one. Uncle Scrooge. Scrooge's fortune finder leads him on a not-so-merry gorilla chase. This one looks familiar to me, so I may have this one. Or I may have just sold it in a previous sale. This one is a little beat. It's got these marks up here, which maybe I can... Let's try some Absorine. I don't think it'll work on those, but you never know. I never really tried it on that stuff. Depends on what it is. Probably. Yeah, they're not coming off. Worth a try, worth a try. So this is number 170. And I don't have this one either. Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong about that then. Maybe I just remember the cover from somewhere. Like I said, I may have sold it. It's got Emo Eagle in it. Oh, that's right. They used him as a competitor to Gyro Gear Loose sometimes. All right, so that one will be staying with me as well. Let's maybe let's see what this one is. Uncle Scrooge. This one, I believe that's a. If that's not a reprint of a Barks cover, then it is a one with a very similar theme. Do not like the yellow coat at all, but it makes it stand out pretty well against that background. But why not use the traditional red? I don't know. Because it was the 70s, man. Uncle Scrooge 151. I have this one, so you're in luck if you want to read The Flying Dutchman by Karl Barks. Originally published in Uncle Scrooge 87. Look at that art. Great stuff. I guess if you've never read the Duck stories, the classic Duck stories, you tend to think of them as being like, oh, it's going to be like Bugs Bunny or Woody Woodpecker, where it's based on the cartoons. They're not. These are adventure stories with humor. They're not a humor story. They're a very well written and well thought out adventure stories that happen to feature the Disney Ducks. But yeah, I said I had that one, so that one will go into sale. And here we have Uncle Scrooge 210. This was, I believe, this is the first Gladstone issue. Yes, this was the first Gladstone issue. So, what did they print in the very first Gladstone issue in 1986? Oh, nice white pages on that. I wasn't expecting that. The front color's got some, color change to it. So I wasn't expecting the pages to be so fresh on the inside. 1986, they came out with their first issue, monthly issues. And, oh, I thought for sure this would have been a Carl Barks issue, but it's not. It features this Robot Raiders of Magica Dispel from Denmark. And there's, of course, some Carl Barks in there because they basically put him in every issue that they could. There he is from Walt Disney Comics 134. This was... Is this the one that has the first appearance of the Beagle Boys? Yes. This reprints the first appearance of the Beagle Boys right down here. They talk about them throughout the issue, and then they just make the one panel appearance. So it's cool. Here's an ad showing the first 4 monthly issues that they did. I was so excited when I found these on the newsstand. I had no idea these were coming out. And then there's a short Carl Barks story in the back from Uncle Scrooge 15 as well. That's a kind of a classic. So, cool stuff. And they did some posters. You could order some posters of different covers as well from them. Never actually seen any of those. Then we have Uncle Scrooge Adventures number 5. And I believe this one... based on the cover, that's definitely a Don Rosa cover. It does have some ink rub or something going on down in a couple spots here. Yeah, it's just the first printing of the Don Rosa story, Last Sled to Dawson, which is considered one of his very, very best. But it's one of those where if you don't know the history of Uncle Scrooge in the previous stories, you might not appreciate it as much, because there's a lot of throwbacks to stuff from a Carl Barks story in the past. But man, I love these. I should let me make sure I still have my copy of this, and it didn't get lost in the whatever. Yeah, I have this whole series, this whole set as well. 1988, yeah. So that can go in the set. And then we have Uncle Scrooge Adventures number 6. Number 8. This isn't a Carl Barks cover, but it does reprint. Based on this, I'm pretty sure this reprints a Carl Barks story. Uncle Scrooge, number 212. Uncle Scrooge 214. 215. I recognize that story as well. 217. That's gonna have Carl Barks. 218. And then here's 220. And then this is Uncle Scrooge Adventures #1, which also should reprint a Carl Barks long story. And this series lasted for 21 issues before Disney took it over. Then it went on to issue number 54 after that, I guess. No, they brought it back. Yeah, when Disney dropped the title when they took over, but then when they gave the license back to Gladstone, they started up again with the same numbering. That's what happened. Uncle Scrooge 226, 228, 230, 232. The bags are stuck together a little bit. 233, 235, 236. Another one of those giant size issues, 241. That may be. No, they went up to 242. No, here's 242. So this is the last issue of Uncle Scrooge from Gladstone's first run. Yeah. And then Disney took over with the next issue, which is 243. That's the first Disney produced issue of Uncle Scrooge that was ever published. Because they always dealt with other publishers up until that point. Walt Disney's Comics and Stories 513, 515, 516, rabbit cover, nice. Oh, I should be looking at these. I think I had the whole run though. I gotta check again. I had the whole run from Gladstone, right? Yes. So no problem. 534. 535, 536, 537, reprinting a classic Walt Kelly cover. 538, New Year's cover. 539, 540. This one was always just weird to me. 541. They went giant size with these as well. 542. 543. Seven Dwarfs cover. That's cool. 544. And this is actually a reprint. I think, not sure if this is a Walt Kelly cover or not, but I know it's a reprint from like back in the 40s, I think. Yeah, 1944. Walt Kelly, originally published on number 45 in 1944. So very cool. Let's take a look, see what they have in the giant size. They got Donald Duck, of course. Scamp, Winnie the Pooh, Seven Dwarfs, and Thumper from Bambi. Article about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I think this is reprints an article from a magazine that they did for Snow White's 50th anniversary. I have that somewhere. Pluto gets a story. Jiminy Cricket with Dumbo and Timothy in Daredevil Dusters. And Mickey Mouse in the Pirates of Tabasco Bay. And of course it's Black Pete. I never really got into those Mickey Mouse serials when I was a kid because I could never read a complete story. It was always just a chapter. You know, you had to find the other issues, and it was, you know, as a kid, it was just impossible. You bought them in those bags of 3 issues, and you didn't know what you were getting for sure, and so forth. Here's number 545. 546, still giant size. 547. And they actually went up to... Oh, that is 547. So this is the last issue that Gladstone did of Walt Disney's Comics and Stories. And then Disney took over. So this is the Disney published Walt Disney's Comics and Stories. Okay, Disney published this, and there he is, Brer Rabbit, right on the cover. They didn't have a problem with Brer Rabbit back then. 549. And some more Uncle Scrooge adventures. Number 2, 3, and 4. So cool. Great books. I actually found a couple issues that I needed. So that's awesome. And just fun stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate it. And we'll do the same thing tomorrow and take a look at some more books that will end up in a claim sale. So see you soon.